Also with me, the Professor and Dean of Jindal School of International Affairs, Dr. Sriram Chaulia. Thank you very much. More than 250 prisoners at present in Pakistan. In fact, this Kot Lakhpat jail housed more than 4 times of its capacity. The capacity was only 4,000 prisoners capacity, where it presently has 17,000 prisoners. So says a lot about the basic infrastructure present in this particular jail. But your comments on this, Professor Chaulia, if the bilateral relations are good, you do away with the hanging of a particular prisoners. If the bilateral relations are bad, you see what's happening.
Sure, pardoning and clemency are very political decisions. General Musharraf, when he was in power, had been asked and he denied. So, you know, the so-called legal process can actually be overcome through political will at the top. And that was clearly missing. Political will and understanding at the top between the two countries was obviously missing. Just going back to this, the incident in the jail itself, if you see, the Pakistan Human Rights Commission has just issued a strong statement condemning what happened. The most telling line they have, and which conveys a lot, is this is that these kinds of incidents reveal how forces of intolerance are taking hold in our institutions in our country. What they basically mean is the same thing which Ambassador Sikri was mentioning, which is that there is this Islamist element within the prison system, and of course in the wider society, that is being used to incite hatred and in fact revenge for what happened to Kasab and so on. So while Mr. Rahman Malik would say that let him hang,
right.
That's the official position of Pakistan government, the point is that within society, the agencies have created this, nurtured this hatred, and so it would not be seen as unnatural. This would have been actually seen as an act of revenge, and in their misguided interpretation of Islam, also as an act of, getting back at the religious enemy. So right. This is the subtext.
You're saying there's a continuous breeding of what we call the culture of intolerance that's happening.
And brutality, the pattern of brutality, which then, it's easy to dehumanize and then to kill like this.
So this antagonistic approach will not really work when we deal with Pakistan. Engagement is the only way forward. But your comments on this, Professor Chaulia, we've heard the MEA also today about what they think about this particular issue. They've again mentioned that we would actually, bilateralism will continue, and India and Pakistan are wedded to bilateralism and will follow this pattern. So this in the current scenario might have a little bit of impact on the India-Pakistan relations. But in the long term, how are you viewing this?
Well, in the long term, I think we should dispense many of these languishing prisoners through a pragmatic swap. It's very much possible. Many countries have done this between themselves, and in the long run, we also, I think, we have to think about our own intelligence agencies and how we honor our own agents and so on, because there's no question about the fact. I mean, I was reading M.K. Dhar's novel Mission to Pakistan. It is a fictional account about an intelligence bureau agent who goes and joins the Pakistani military undercover finally, and then gets exposed. He rots in jail for 18 years and then eventually dies unremembered. And it now turns out it was actually an account of an individual called Ravindra Kaushik, who I think was in the early 80s, was found out, and he died after 18 or 19 years in jail in Multan. And so many agencies have this problem. They don't want to own up to their assets after they get caught. So I think we have to be realistic about this as well. So it's a diplomatic problem. It's a humanitarian issue certainly, and then it also has to do with the way intelligence agencies operate and our policies. Because why would you fight for India? Why would you stake your life for India if you get dropped like a hot potato? These are the kind of games that happen. It's a very impersonal and dehumanized world, the intelligence wars that our two countries have been engaging in for a long time. I hope that these kind of incidents, the public outrage, the family members, Ravindra Kaushik, interestingly, just like Sarabjit's sister, Ravindra Kaushik's brother said, if my brother was an American citizen, they would have gotten him out of jail from Pakistan in 3 days. Using all means possible and all kinds of leverage. So the anguish is there, and we must recognize the suffering of the families, and we must also think about how we must honor our dead. I was told that the Prime Minister has called him a son of India, and I hope that it conveys a message.
In fact, Punjab will be giving a state funeral to Sarabjit Singh, as was reported in latest by websites today. But
intelligence agencies can never own up their sources. This is the practice all over the world. India is no exception.
Right, but Professor Chaulia, as we were discussing it earlier also about the way Indian government has dealt with it, and as I was asking Mr. Dixit also about the international pressure, as you said, if he was an American citizen, he could have been out from this jail in just 3 days. The international pressure exerting, the pressure also through international bodies like United Nations would have really worked in favor of Sarabjit?
I don't know, because a state can always cite sovereignty and say it's impervious to all these. I mean, not even the ICRC, the International Committee of Red Cross, which has a mandate to visit prisons and inspect how detainees are being held, was given access to Sarabjit towards the end of his life. So
even our own consular officers were not.
Yes,
right. And they were not.
So they're pretty impervious to these kind of pressures, and because high stakes game, because they say he was a terrorist, he's a convicted terrorist. I don't think they would have listened to anybody. I mean, even American pressure, if you remember in the case of the A.Q. Khan detention, Americans were desperate to access him and to interrogate him, and the Pakistanis shielded him all the way.
Right.
I don't think Americans managed to ever talk to A.Q. Khan on what he did with his nuclear Walmart.
Right.
So this is the real problem, the crux of the problem. When you have states that are that have roguish elements and which are behaving in this manner, there is nothing really apart from forcible regime change, which is of course inconceivable, that can really transform the situation. The other one is the grassroots model, where there is angst within the Pakistani society about this move towards intolerance, which their Human Rights Commission is talking about.
Right.
That is probably the only source for long-term hope. But high-level pressure from overseas, I don't know how a problem state like Pakistan can change.
Right. So we also need to have some sort of a maturity when we are talking about our foreign policy. Final comments from you, Professor Chaulia.
Wild accusations that we are soft and that it's reflecting the softness of our state. I think certainly I would say that we are not very strategic. We are not thinking about 10, 20 years down the line, what is China to us?
Right.
What is Pakistan to us? I think we will need to be more doctrinal in our approach to foreign affairs, and hopefully that will bring some of this, cut some of this
maybe
flab
some long-term
that we're
approach
talking
in our
about in
foreign
terms of
policy.
softness.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Chaulia and Mr. Dixit, for joining us in this program, and that's all we have for you in this edition of Public Forum. Thank you very much for watching. Namaskar.